it up on their side.
This is the Captain Crypto Show, navigating the treacherous seas of cryptocurrency to help you arrive at port safely and secure your loot.
We're going.
Here's your host, Kylan Hurts.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Captain Crypto Show. Today it's Tuesday, June 5th, which means it's another episode of our Captain's Council, where we go through the latest and greatest in the world of cryptocurrency. It's me, Captain Crypto, and Kylan Hurt. I'm a front-end developer at Edge, where we have a mobile wallet. It's available on iOS and Android, so if you want to keep your cryptocurrency safe, go ahead and take a look in either the App Store on Android or Apple, and give it a whirl. Let us know what you think. So usually we have our co-hosts in the studio with us, but our crew has been they've been very travel heavy, and that's a good thing because cryptocurrency is definitely a global, it's a global phenomenon. So everyone's traveling all over the place. I know Brett just got back from Europe. Tay is, I'm going to guess, in Puerto Rico. It seems where he always is. And then Jackson, you are in San Diego right now, but you are about to head probably within the next week to Japan. So why don't you real quick give the audience an idea of what kind of plans you got going on? What are you going to be up to in Japan?
I'm actually up in Washington now, on my way to Japan, leaving this weekend. My wife is Japanese, so I'm going over there to explore and learn a new culture. I've already visited quite a few times and find that their Bitcoin adoption is actually quite a bit ahead of most of the cities I've visited in the U.S.
Right.
So I'm really excited for that, and I plan on trying to join the community there as I try to join the community as in Japan as a whole.
Yeah, that sounds like something that's pretty exciting. I know I've never been to Japan, but as time goes on, I'm hearing more and more about some of the developments that are going on globally when it comes to cryptocurrency, and they do sound like a lot of fun. I know there's plenty going on in the United States, but there's also plenty of other stuff going on in other areas. So it, in a way, it also gives you an opportunity to travel. If you're involved with cryptocurrency at all, you can go and visit some of the conferences. There's a lot in Europe, a lot in Asia as well. So, well, I think you're probably pretty excited about heading there, and I think I'm pretty excited about hearing what it's going to be like once you actually get there. So I am looking forward to that.
Yeah.
All right, so
Edge likes to keep you in front of your computer writing code and improving the software. So
say that again.
We got to get a break and come visit me in Japan sometime.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things is as a developer, we have a lot of people on our team at Edge that go to the conferences, but the developers, they tend to want us in front of the computer getting stuff done and writing code, which is understandable, but sometimes we don't always get the opportunities that some of the other team members get. So one thing I don't know if you were aware of this, Jackson, but yesterday so for those in the audience who are not familiar with this, I am actually the organizer for the San Diego Blockchain Development Meetup here in San Diego. So obviously that comes with quite a bit of responsibility, and we've been trying to have a meetup event about once a month, and we've been able to hit that target pretty well. The first three presentations or events that we did were hosted and were, the presentations were given by people at Edge, but luckily we had someone at 2 events ago, Ryan Milbourne. Are you familiar with him, Jackson? He's pretty, not prolific, but he's pretty busy. He gets a lot done in the Bitcoin meetups here in San Diego.
I'm not familiar with him, but I did see I'm getting a pretty bad echo there for a second. I'm not familiar with him, but I did see that you guys had that meetup, and I'm really proud of you for starting that meetup. I think that's the meetup that San Diego needs.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of work. Sometimes I wonder if I've bitten off more than I can chew, but I'm actually finding that the quality of the meetups, the events that we're having are increasing. So Ryan Milbourne he's kind of like you, Jax. He's a Bitcoin maximalist. He's very interested in Lightning Network, and I think he had already given a presentation before about the Lightning Network. And the good thing is he was going to go on vacation or something like that, but we were able to fit in an event where he gave a presentation on the Lightning Network. That was yesterday. right before he's heading out on vacation. And I'm glad we did, because I think the turnout's probably the best we've had so far. So this is only the 4th event for the San Diego Blockchain Development Meetup. And we had probably about 20 people, which was relatively very good turnout, in my opinion. And the good thing, too, is he's also given the presentation before. So by the time we were getting it, he already had it pretty well polished, which I was very happy about, because I know getting a presentation is one thing, but getting someone who actually is familiar with the topic matter enough and has rehearsed it and has already taken on a lot of the questions was a bit of a delight. So I'm happy to say that I was able to get a lot of my questions in that were related to the Lightning Network, and he did an excellent job of answering them. And in general, it seems like the audience was very happy about it. So it's a pity you won't be around to see some of my events, but maybe we'll start broadcasting once we're ready to do that for those events.
Yeah, I wish I was still in San Diego. I would have been there with bells on.
Yeah. Okay, so, I'm trying to think of which story we want to start off with, but I say let's start off with a fun one. So, a few days ago, John McAfee, who hopefully most of the audience is aware of who he is. He's a, I guess you could call him an antivirus tech mogul. Every time you get those McAfee antivirus things on your Windows computer, that's the company that he started. So he obviously made a lot of money in that area, probably hundreds of millions, maybe even in the billions. I'm not sure. I don't know if he has all that money now, but he pivoted after he kind of left antivirus industry. He moved toward cryptocurrency and has been a longtime cheerleader. It's no secret that he's a bit of a libertarian, and it's funny because I think he did run the primary for the Libertarian Party candidacy in 2016, but he lost out to Gary Johnson. And it is interesting because at that time period, he had not had that kind of resurgence in his career where he had gone back into, or not back into, he started really pivoting into cryptocurrency real hard. So it's interesting because when I'm reading through the articles talking about it and his own words on it, it sounds like he's not even that interested in even trying to win, which some people might not like that. Some people want you to go in and just try to win. But on one hand, he's not trying to win too much. But on the other hand, I think he's seen Donald Trump, who in some ways you can say they probably have some interesting or similar personality characteristics. And seeing that Trump was able to get in, you have to wonder if that's given him maybe a little bit more pep in his step, a little bit more confidence going into this presidential race. So, Jackson, what do you think? John McAfee, President of the United States of America, is that what we have in store for ourselves? Is that what the future looks like?
Yep, I'm having the shirts made up right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he was, one of the big things too is he said that by 2020, if Bitcoin did not hit, was $1 million that he wanted it to hit?
I don't remember exactly what the price target was.
Yeah.
I know below it right now for trending for him to lose his manhood.
Yeah, essentially he said he would eat his own dick. So, of course, there is the question of, let's say he wins, but then how would I say, Bitcoin also hits $1 million. Maybe we'll end up with the first dickless president. I guess there's a first for everything. You get the first Catholic one, first African-American, and John McAfee, the first dickless one. I think, in general, I don't know I go back and forth on John McAfee. Is he good for the space, or is he not good for the space? Does he get eyeballs? Yeah, he certainly does, but you do wonder if we're trying to legitimize the space, whether someone, using vulgarities, shall we say, and just in general being bombastic, whether that's something that is useful for the space or something that is maybe, what's the term I'm looking for, counterproductive. What do you think, Jackson?
I think it's a good thing. I think keeping Bitcoin weird is great. I think it's just something that's really unique and cool about Bitcoin is that you don't have to trust anybody. So the fact that John McAfee is a complete clown and a name in Bitcoin doesn't mean that you can't trust Bitcoin. And I feel like just getting more names and more eyes looking at it in any way will get people to start learning. And if they learn, they'll know that it doesn't matter who else is using it. It's still useful.
Yeah, one thing that I've been trying to figure out with John McAfee is at one time I thought he was a bit of a Bitcoin maximalist, but as time goes on, it seems like he's still mostly into Bitcoin. I think because it's kind of weird because you would think he's a tech guy, and he kind of is, but I think he doesn't pay attention to all the altcoins. But then the flip side of it is that he's like open. I'm pretty sure he's openly offered to help someone get, how do I say, to get exposure for people's altcoins in return for like, you know, whatever kind of benefit he can get, compensation he can get. So sometimes it sounds like it's a flat fee. Other times it sounds like he wants some of the tokens himself. So, I mean, some people, I pay attention to him and he's entertaining, but when he actually starts talking about the specifics of any coin, I tend to tune him out.
I would agree. I think that
Go ahead.
his opinions are very much based on who's willing to pay him the most, and I don't think he even really sees that in himself. I think he honestly believes anything that comes out of his mouth last.
Yeah, it's fun having him around, but his utility is kind of limited, at least in my opinion. So I just thought that one was interesting. It's kind of a lighthearted story. I don't know. I'm trying to remember if he's going to go Libertarian Party or if he's going to try to run on his own, but I believe he did say...
I actually read that. He is vying for the Libertarian bid, but if he doesn't get it, he's going to run under his own party. So
okay, so one way or another, he'll be doing...
That's very libertarian to do, so...
Yeah, I mean, and cryptocurrency is pretty libertarian leaning. I do wonder now that it's arisen quite a bit whether someone like Gary Johnson might not really get as much, how would I say it, as much popularity. Because I feel like at this point, cryptocurrency has to be almost a cornerstone of the libertarian platform, so to speak. Because, you know, some like Gary Johnson, he's not the type of guy that gets people fired up. He was kind of the candidate where people said, okay, well, you know, he's palatable to the mainstream. But now, I think if you get someone on the libertarian ticket or trying to go for the libertarian presidential nomination, if they are not able to hold their ground when being asked about cryptocurrency, I wonder whether libertarians will even really have the stomach for that. I think that's something that's worth asking.
Yeah, I hope that's true. It seems like over in Europe, the Pirate Party went pretty crypto heavy, and it seemed to help them quite a bit. So
really, I actually have not heard that much about. Was that during 2016, or is that just this year?
Yeah, it was about a year and a half ago, I believe. And I think that they even like got a couple of seats in like the parliament or something like that. I can't remember exactly the situation was, but they didn't win the major elections, but they did win some of the minor ones. So it was pretty impressive for a bunch of people touting cryptocurrency.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, there you go. John McAfee is going for the presidential bid. I think one of the good things too is it puts a microphone in front of him, and I think that's one of the big things. He's already said, "Oh, don't plan on me winning." I think people are starting to realize that, hey, if you want free exposure, just go run for president. Try to at least make it so that you're kind of in that last, top 10 for the party, whatever party it is. And there's a good chance you can get quite a bit of exposure. And I have a feeling he'll probably get a lot of exposure just because of how many sound bites come out of his mouth. And ultimately, if we believe that him getting exposure to or for the cryptocurrency space is good, then this will probably end up being a good thing because it'll bring even more attention to it. Although you do wonder, by the time we get to 2019, late 2018, do we even need more exposure, or does everyone pretty much know what Bitcoin is at this point? What do you think, Jackson? Is this do we need more exposure, especially in the United States? Because there was a time where all the people were talking about on the news was Bitcoin. At least that's the way it seemed. So is that maybe that's not what we need anymore? Are we past the point where we need exposure?
No, I'd actually disagree with that. Okay. I came up here to Washington, and my family lives in kind of a smaller town, Spokane, and I've talked to a few people around town trying to find somewhere that accepts Bitcoin, trying to find a Bitcoin community around here. Nobody knows what it is at all. I think we tend to get in our own little bubble, and everybody in our bubble knows what it is, but I think we have echo chambers in the Bitcoin community, and we still need to get a lot more exposure, and we still need to be doing a lot more outreach.
Yeah, okay. Well, and the thing is, I'm trying to think here. I feel like I just don't travel to places where they don't have much cryptocurrency. If I go to Vegas or something, they're pretty big on it there. I guess I don't really travel that much, except for when I'm going to conferences anyway. But I don't know. Maybe I need to branch out a little bit more.
I get into a new town fairly often, and I always try to find the one bar or restaurant that's accepting Bitcoin, and it's quite often difficult. But
yeah, it's kind of fun trying to gauge how far it is or how widespread it is in an area, though. Like when I was in Thailand like a year and a half ago, I didn't really see much Bitcoin stuff, but I wasn't really looking for it either because I think at that point, if I remember correctly, it had not started going gangbusters quite yet. All right, so I think that's enough on John McAfee. He's always finding a way to get into the news. This is a pretty smart move, though, I think. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what kind of crazy stuff he says, because regardless of whether you think he's useful or not, you have to admit that he is, at the very least, entertaining. All right, so the second story we got here is ZenCash. And this one's sad because I had heard, I know a lot of people that actually were very excited about ZenCash. And maybe they still are, but you can't be to the same degree. Essentially, they experienced a 51% attack. I think it was a few days ago. And if I remember correctly, the attacker, I believe they were attacking an exchange, right? Because that's usually the method that makes the most sense. And they were able to make off with something like $550,000 worth of whatever. I assume ZenCash, but they're able to make off with money. And apparently there are, how do I say this? I guess I already knew there were services where you can rent, how would I say it, hashing power. And I guess NiceHash is one of them. They're saying that in order to pull off this attack, would have only cost someone $30,000. So $30,000 cost to make off with $550,000. And this follows kind of like a string of other attacks we've seen. I think Bitcoin Gold, was it Gold. Bitcoin Gold? Yeah, mm-hmm. And then the other one was Verge. So we are seeing a somewhat of a pattern, and you wonder if this is something that will become more common before it becomes less common. So what do you think, Jackson? Is this a byproduct of people focusing on, how would I say it, all sorts of characteristics, but not focusing enough on hashing algorithms and hash power? They use, let's see here, Equihash, which is also used by ZCash and Bitcoin Private. And if you use if you use a hashing algorithm that's the same as some of the other cryptocurrencies, then that means miners from those other cryptocurrencies can come and they can either mine your coin or they can attack it. So what do you think, Jackson?
Yeah, this story is music to my ears as the Bitcoin maximalist on the Captain Crypto Council.
Yeah.
It's just insane how much valuation people assign to these unsecured networks. And I thought it was really crazy that the price of these coins didn't really go down very much as they were attacked.
Yeah, that's bizarre, right? I mean, if you can attack it once, you can attack it twice, right?
Yeah, but I think, everybody kind of understands that you are looking for the value of these coins down the road. So I kind of makes sense that if it gets attacked once, okay, fine, repair it, find a way to make it so it won't get attacked again. But what you were saying before rings completely true to me, that if your coin is using the same hashing algorithm as a coin that is bigger than it and it has a lot more security, then you should be very, very scared that somebody is going to go and basically 51% and try to destroy that network at any time. And then reaching even farther forward on that, everyone is using the same electricity. So if we get to a point where you have just a struggle for the amount of electricity that you'd use to attack, then all of these coins are going to be subject to being attacked by the miners of the biggest chain, which is right now Bitcoin. Maybe not always, but it just makes sense that if everybody is battling for the same resource to secure their network, that resource is going to all get to one place to secure one network, in my mind.
Yeah, and I do think it's interesting that they're not using different hashing algorithms. So, I mean, obviously, that sounds like it's either an oversight or a mistake or just a miscalculation. But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking because if you
So
go ahead,
I had one more thing to say about that before we move off.
yeah,
It's not just like the hashing algorithm; it's whether or not you have compatible hardware.
okay,
So most of these coins can be mined with a graphics card. So it
okay,
doesn't really matter which algorithm you choose. If it is most efficiently mined on a graphics card, then they can attack your network without any cost of switching.
right,
Where an ASIC based chip, well, then only people with that ASIC can attack your network.
okay. So the GPUs are more flexible, and I do wonder though if we're seeing attacks. I mean, are we really seeing attacks being done by a large number of GPUs? Because I would think that it would be difficult to do that, whereas you could just have, a decently large number of ASICs, right? Or I mean, what? I guess I don't really know.
I think you're right about it coming mostly from NiceHash, and I'm pretty sure that all of the networks that have been attacked have been algorithms that are mostly mined with GPUs.
Okay.
The ones with ASICs are much more difficult to get all the ASICs together to attack the network. So
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
you can just go rent anybody's GPU and run it on NiceHash. Then it makes it pretty easy to attack the network. So.
Got it. Yeah. And the thing is, some people might be thinking, oh, you shouldn't be able to rent hash power, but no, that's kind of what cloud mining is, and I don't think there's anything innately wrong about that. It's just in this case, if you don't have, it's almost like if you don't have enough people. If you have a project and it's a cryptocurrency project, and you're always trying to, how would I say it? You're trying to like pump it all the time, you're trying to market it all the time. If you're spending a lot of time on that, you might not be spending as many resources on trying to encourage people, the laymen, to actually mine how would I say it? To mine the currency. And of course, when you don't do that, you have low hash power. And the less the hash power, then the more likely it is that someone will attack it. I didn't actually see, actually I did see it. There was like a spreadsheet that someone made within the last week or so where they were showing how much money you would need in order to pull off a 51% attack for some of the relatively major coins, for whatever amount of time they're talking. Usually something like 2 hours or something like that. And a lot of them are pretty low. I mean, you have coins that have market capitalizations in the billions or hundreds of millions, and the amount of money it takes to attack it and do a double spend sometimes is as low as, in the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. So that discrepancy between the value of the coin and the amount that it costs to attack it, you would think those would be somewhat closer numbers, right?
Yeah, kind of seems like it's right for the picking. And especially if the price of the coin isn't going to go down after it gets attacked, because then the thing that you're able to steal by 51% attacking is still going to be valuable after you steal it. This is getting incentivized pretty hard. And if I were one of those coins with a low amount of security, I would be pretty afraid.
Yeah, why do you think that how would I say it, that the price of something like ZenCash didn't go down more? Do you think it's something where people just are not paying attention, or they don't know what happened, or they think, oh, well, the exchange lost the money, but I didn't lose money? Or what do you think what is the thinking behind that? Because if it were me, if I was going to buy some ZenCash before, I'm probably not going to now, because it's not like I don't see them solving these issues immediately. Either it takes time, you might need to get more people naturally mining, or you might have to get some sort of, what would I call it? Some sort of bugs fixed in the code. But either way, that takes time. So
I think that's a big part of it. But I think probably a large part of it is for these small cap cryptocurrency coins, attention is like their greatest resource. So just the fact that people are looking at them and know their name might be worth more than the attack cost them.
Yeah. I'm trying to think here. So it's interesting because we've seen a few attacks recently, and like I said, I wonder if we're going to see more of them, because it looks like the attacker is probably able to get really good returns. Although I do wonder if you're hacking an exchange, like, how are you going to get that money out? Can't they just freeze the money? You can't really pull out a bunch of money from an exchange unless you've done KYC.
Yeah, no, this is definitely possible. What you do is you'd send in, say, 100 ZenCash, and then you wait until their confirmation limit. Usually they say like you have to have 60 confirmations,
Right.
and that's a silly way of doing things because 60 confirmations on ZenCoin is like, or is that right? Is that ZenCoin? Is that what's
I
called?
think it's ZenCash.
Sorry.
Yeah.
60 confirmations on ZenCash is worth like 5% of a Bitcoin confirmation in terms of like raw security and electricity put into mining it.
Yeah.
You just wait for the 60 confirmations on ZenCash. You transfer it into Bitcoin. You withdraw the Bitcoin, and then you release your longer chain on ZenCash where you never sent that money to them. And then you have the Bitcoin and you have the ZenCash. There's nothing the exchange can possibly do about it.
Right. But at that point, aren't they at least able to identify who you are? I mean, because if you're...
well, I mean, a lot of these exchanges, you can sign up with just an email address. They limit you to like how much money you can withdraw by how much information you give to them. But I mean, I don't think it's that hard to find a fake driver's license to take a picture of and get them to sign up under that and allow you to.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. That's probably what the hackers are doing. They're probably using fake identities. Because I mean, I'm looking at it when I'm in an exchange. I feel like my withdrawal amount is not 550,000. I think it's significantly less than that.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I think you're right. They're probably using someone else.
Another thing they could do is there's nothing stopping them from just making 100, 200 different accounts.
Yeah, and they could send things around. Yeah. Huh. Food for thought.
So before we move off this, I want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
You have never even heard of ZenCash. You should still be really nervous about this, especially if you're trading on one of the exchanges that hosts all sorts of different coins. Because if ZenCash gets hacked and Bitcoin Gold gets hacked and their exchange loses a lot of money, they have a huge incentive just to walk away with all the money instead of trying to fix this after they have a huge debt to their users that they don't have any way of paying back.
Yeah, and I wonder if sometimes the exchanges might not feel like letting people know that this is happening as well. Because I know in the past when there have been hacks, like Mt. Gox is one of them where they kept it hush-hush and they were insolvent for a long time before people even knew that there was an actual issue.
Yeah, if that were true, I think you could be right, but you could like look back and see like where there was a bunch of reorgs on proof of work chains and try to do like some chain analysis and see if somebody got double spent and maybe find out which exchanges are in hot water.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this is something that we need to look out for because I think, like we said, you can bet that there's going to be other people trying to do it. It looks like I really do wonder if you were going to see more people doing this before we see less. But hopefully this will make people take a closer look at some of the dangers of having a cryptocurrency that has low hashing power. Excuse me. Okay, so have you? One of the big stories during this last week has, of course, been the EOS launch. Have you been watching that at all? I know you're not big on altcoins.
Yeah, I did some research so I could talk to you about it, but I'll let you take the.
Yeah, because I mean, I have a good amount of my holdings. A very substantial portion of it is in EOS. One of the reasons I got into it because I'm a developer and they have a very developer-friendly currency. Now, what they're going for is not really a big, immutable, secure blockchain, if you will. It's more of like one that scales well, that can move fast, that is a little bit more usable, user-friendly, and one thing I know a lot of people won't like, and I think this will be one of the more interesting things to see how it does, is if there's a big issue, kind of like what they had with the DAO hack, then they reserve the right to roll things back. So they're openly saying that they're not trying to be immutable. So they started off, they did a token sale that was over, I think, not over a year long, it was almost a year long, and they raised something, is over $1 billion, it's like multiple billions of dollars. And they're going to be using that money for whatever. A lot of it's going to be going toward development of applications on EOS. But they finally you were holding ERC20 tokens, and so that's what you were buying because it was a crowd sale, right? A token sale. And trying to think when it was. They had a snapshot a few days ago, so as long as you registered your tokens, which is a big point of friction that a lot of people believed that it had, was that if you didn't register your tokens, that you would lose all your money. So it seems like pretty much everyone registered their tokens. It was like 98 point something % had it registered. And essentially what will happen is now they took that snapshot and they are going to launch the actual main chain, the actual blockchain for EOS, probably in the coming 2 or 3 weeks or so. It was a pretty exciting time. I was watching the price closely. It has moved quite a bit during the last month, probably more than most cryptocurrencies, which isn't saying much because the last month or so, things have been pretty stagnant. Not too many currencies have been doing very well. Just when you think they're about to recover, then they kind of relapse a little bit. So there was a little bit of a price movement with EOS, which was nice. But then, how would I say this? So I thought that since they were going to, be moving from the ERC20 tokens to the actual EOS blockchain, I had a feeling that after the snapshot, I thought that the price was just going to be horizontal. I thought it was something where you weren't going to be able to trade, because what were you going to trade? But of course, I'm looking at that from the point of view of someone who has registered their tokens themselves. Who I did it through my Ether wallet, but technically most of the tokens most of the tokens that are held for EOS are actually held by exchanges. And as far as the exchanges are concerned, they can keep on, they can use the ERC20 tokens still as, what's the term I'm looking for? Kind of like as an IOU. So they are able to allow people to keep trading them, and that way you can actually still see the price fluctuating. So I thought it was going to be something where for a few weeks between the snapshot and the launch that I would not be able to see how the price is doing, which I thought was going to actually be kind of fun, because then once it launched, I was like, okay, well then we'll have price discovery, and it'll be some sort of surprise. You'll see some sort of movement. And I'm actually, I didn't say it, but I'm actually kind of disappointed that I can actually see the price fluctuate. I feel like that takes half the fun out of it. So it's still an exciting time. I think they're already on like phase 2 out of 4 or something like that. But I am curious then, Jackson, as a Bitcoin maximalist, what is your take on this ongoing EOS launch? It's probably one of the more eventful parts of the year, but I know as a Bitcoin maximalist, you might not be as enthusiastic as I am.
Yeah, to be completely honest, it barely touched my radar. And I'm getting quite a bit of echo on my side right now, so I'll let you take back over a second.
Okay, yeah, see if you can fix that echo. So, yeah, I think EOS is, if you're a Bitcoin maximalist, a lot of stuff that people like about Bitcoin, it seems like EOS has either compromised on, or maybe they are just not as concerned about it. Like I said, they're focusing more on scalability, making it usable for decentralized applications. So I've already done a couple analytical episodes on some of these decentralized applications, and I like where some of them are going. Obviously, not all the decentralized apps will work out as well as we'd like, but as time goes on, it seems like there's more and more developers that are trying to make the next Twitter, the next GitHub, the next Encyclopedia, the next SoundCloud, and trying to build it on EOS. Now, we've had an ongoing debate on whether we think blockchain technology is ready for something like that, but I think we're going to be finding out within the next 6 months. Is your audio better, Jackson?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it is right now. I'm not hearing the echo anymore.
Cool. So what are your thoughts then? What's your take on EOS? I know it'll probably be relatively negative, but let's hear it anyway.
Yeah, nobody has ever made a case for me that EOS is interesting. Bitcoin is interesting to me because before Bitcoin, there was no way to send money digitally without an intermediary. Bitcoin makes that possible. Everything that you can do with EOS, you can do already with the database. I mean, it doesn't make it decentralized when you have a federation of people that have the ability to roll back changes. So there is a centralized entity. So I don't see what is new and possible with EOS that wasn't possible before. To me, it's just a giant Rube Goldberg machine, just making things more complicated than it needs to be with no benefit.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, one of the things they're going for is to have more or less what's like a feeless transaction. So the fees will be handled by, how would I say it? They will be handled by the applications, and the applications get kind of like I guess you could say it's maybe a little bit closer to Ethereum in some ways. They get a portion of the block producers, how would I say it, processing power and just hardware resources in general by staking their coins. So I do think the fact that you can have feeless transactions is, I think that can make decentralized apps work pretty well. I know with something, and you're also talking about 3-second confirmation times, which I think people will like. But then, of course, that does beg the question: if you're able to roll things back, then what does a how would I say it? What does a confirmation time even mean, or what does it mean if the transaction goes through, if it can be rolled back?
Yeah.
So I think that is.
I'm pretty sure Venmo transactions are pretty much free and also
instantaneous. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. It'll be very interesting to see how often something goes wrong where they need to roll things back, or how the scaling goes. If the decentralized apps, maybe people will have staked tons of these EOS coins. But then if they don't get enough processing power, then they're going to ask themselves, well, why the hell? What's the point? Why would I buy these tokens for processing power if I'm not getting enough bang for my buck? So that's something that's a big, how would I say? It's a big variable, and I think we're going to be getting the answer hopefully within the next 6 months or so. But I think it's one thing where they'll be launching, and then in the beginning there won't be as many decentralized apps, so we won't really be able to get a full picture. In fact, I do wonder if by the time we launch, if there's no apps that have launched, then people are going to wonder, okay, well, what's the big deal here? So I think there's a lot of big questions, and like I said, I think we'll get the answer soon, which I'm excited for. But I understand that not everyone's excited for it. When it's when it's a year when there's not much going on, I'd hate to say that, but at least price-wise, there's not much going on. A lot of coins are having issues with scaling. I think I'm probably not the only one who's just kind of looking for something to be excited about, as sad as that sounds. Have you felt the same way about this year? I mean, we're half a way into the year, and price hasn't rebounded yet. It started to a couple times, but then it baked us out. What do you think, Jackson?
Yeah, I can definitely see the general excitement around Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies being a lot smaller. But for me specifically, as somebody who's a Bitcoin maximalist and thinks that the Lightning Network is the way forward, at least in the short term, it's been very exciting. And watching that come online and grow has been exhilarating for me. But it seems that all the things that I'm excited about in Bitcoin rarely affect the price, at least not in the short term. So I understand it's not quite the headline news that some people are used to seeing from Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, I'm curious then if, how would I say this? What I am concerned about, moving away from EOS a little bit, when it comes to the price of cryptocurrency, do you feel like it's something where we're not really going to see too much significant upward movement until the scaling issues are sorted out? Because I think a lot of people are, okay, maybe they want to adopt some of these cryptocurrencies, but then they saw how bad the fees got, last December and November. Then they also are looking at the volatility. I know it's not as volatile now, but in general, they've looked at the volatility before and been like, watching it go from 20 grand to 6.8 grand. And they're probably thinking to themselves, maybe I don't want to do this. Do you think, could we even get to $100,000 Bitcoin before the scaling issue is solved?
I have no idea. What does Trace Mayer say? The Bitcoin price is a dog on acid or something like that. Just a good tail, I can't remember. That's what I think. I don't think anybody can predict the price of Bitcoin, and I think it's going to keep on surging up and down like crazy until people actually start using it for actual purposes. So I guess that would be actual adoption and actual scaling implementations. So yes, I agree with you to a degree, but like the range of where Bitcoin could go before that is so huge that I couldn't even guess. Somewhere between $500,000 and $50.
Yeah. Today, I think, was, how would I say it? It was a payday for me, and I had already paid my rent, and so I was thinking to myself, okay, I have the majority of my paycheck, Like, where do I want to put it? And I get paid in Bitcoin, so I'm just sitting there. I'm like, okay, well, I already have enough money in EOS. I already have enough money in Monero. I don't see anything that would push Monero up at least faster than any of the other cryptocurrencies anytime soon, because in my opinion, it's having issues with scalability. I could be completely wrong on that. I was just thinking to myself, I was like, I don't even know which coin I even want to invest in right now. Litecoin has had its chance to get major adoption. It just hasn't worked out. Bitcoin Cash, I'm not even sure what's going on over there. Ethereum, I think they're having such scaling issues that people can't even build decentralized apps on it, really. I mean, you could, but I think people would probably rather do something like EOS. But then EOS is untested. So I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, like, I don't even know where to put my money. There was a point where
there's always the USD coin.
In what coin?
There's always that USD coin.
Yeah. I mean, I'm at the point where I want to keep my money out of the banking system, I think.
I don't think you're...
We'll see, though. Are you just talking about, literally, a tether?
No, I was literally talking about the US dollars.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah, I'm worried that with all the trading going on that people have been doing, when I'm looking at the way that the IRS is going to be looking at these transactions, and I'm kind of tempted to keep my coins just off of an exchange. I don't even think I really want to do much trading unless I'm really sure that I want to.
What do you mean tempted? That's always what you should be doing. Come on, Kylan. Teach your audience the correct behaviors.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think a lot of people are tempted. I try to. I don't feel like I've emphasized that before, though. I'm not trying to day trade, but I've heard of people that have. How would I say? They have traded a bunch, and then maybe they made some good money, but then at some point they also ended up with a big loss. And sometimes the way that the taxes turn out, it could be something where maybe imagine what it was 2017, 2018. You make a bunch of money in 2017. You're like, yay. And then you owe a bunch of taxes. You don't pay them yet. You're like, all right, I'll pay them in March. The next thing you know, all your cryptocurrency, the first thing it does in 2018 is it crashes. Well, now how are you going to pay for those taxes with the cryptocurrency that's just lost more than half of its value?
A lot of people found themselves in that situation. They went from instant millionaires to owing the government $50K that they didn't have.
Yeah, I think I'm at a point where I'm just trying to keep out of the exchanges, which does remind me, I'm actually switching away from the other topic, but we'll move into some other developments here. Actual developments, I guess I should say. So I am actually I'm recording an episode on the 0x protocol. So they are actually trying to become the go-to for decentralized exchanges, and I think there's a good chance they could do it. I don't want to give away too much, but I did start recording the episode last night, and then it turned out the audio was messed up on a bunch of it, which is a bummer because it takes a good hour or two to record stuff. But that's fine. I will redo it. So be on the lookout for that. I'm actually looking forward to what they're doing there. They're trying to make it starting off on Ethereum so they can do tokens to Ethereum, tokens to tokens. Then once they implement atomic swaps, then they'll be able to do stuff that's on the Ethereum blockchain onto other blockchains. And then eventually they want their protocol to be able to be, how would I say it, to be integrated on any blockchain, right? So essentially any blockchain that can do smart contracts. And then at that point, it's like decentralized exchange will be something that'll it won't be application specific. It won't be blockchain specific. You could be able to patch into this standard and do the decentralized exchanging. The cool thing too is the wallets are going to be probably the main way you'll interface with it. So I'm trying to talk with some of the leadership at Edge and see if there's an opportunity to make some revenue there. And I think there will be. But again, I don't want to give too much away. Okay, so the last thing I want to go over, second to last thing, is Monero integration. This is something that I've been talking about for, I think, since October. I think I was really excited about it. And Monero has officially, at least as I understand, has officially been integrated into the Ledger Nano, or Nano Ledger. I always get those. I always get the order mixed up. Which is a hardware wallet. I know a lot of people out there own hardware wallets. Maybe not this one specifically. Now I've heard when I was looking in doing more research on it, it seems like some people were saying it's just the command line integration that's done. But ultimately, if the command line integration for something's done, the GUI doesn't. The graphic user interface isn't too far behind. But I mean, it's kind of crazy. I think they had one main guy working on it, and they started back in I think October, and it's taken all the way till June to integrate it. So it just kind of goes to show how difficult something like Monero can be to get integrated. What do you think, Jackson? Have you ever owned any Monero? I guess the question.
I haven't, but it's one of the ones that I actually do like and am interested in. But I think that people don't care about privacy as much as they care about fees and costs, and especially in the fact that those two butt heads quite often, just like they do in Monero. Monero, you can have your privacy, but it will cost you extra in terms of the scaling of the network and how complicated it is. I hope that we can find a way to have a scaling privacy-focused network, but I haven't seen that be possible yet. But I feel like that is kind of the way that Monero things typically go, is they tend to be super complicated.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that, and so it did take them quite a while to integrate it. Yeah, I think some of these blockchains, when they built them, they weren't always thinking about integrations in the beginning. They're just thinking, okay, let's make something that's very private. And then eventually it gets to the point where people have to actually integrate it into an application, and they find, oops, maybe we kind of overlooked making things easy enough for developers to use the currency in their wallet, to use the currency in their exchange, or whatever it may be. So I think that's definitely the case with Monero. One thing, I know you were talking about scalability with privacy being an issue. I think I did an episode, when was that? I think January, on Grin, which uses Mimblewimble. And it sounds like that's what they're...
been up in the news again lately, huh?
Yeah, so that's what they're aiming for, is to make it something that's maybe not quite as good as Monero with privacy, but that's really good, that's probably good enough, and then make it so that there's really low fees, make it so that it works really well. And it sounds like, well, I think they'll probably be a year away from launch. But one of the things they're doing to keep, I think, to make sure that, how would I say it? One of the interesting things about their coin, the Grin coin, is there's going to be a constant emission rate. So it's going to be 60 coins per minute, and I think 1 minute 1 minute confirmation times, which is quick, and they're just going to be churning those things out. And I think they said they don't want people trying to hoard them; they want people to actually use them. So it gives people less incentive to hold on to them, which I think is kind of interesting, and it makes you think that maybe there won't be as much of a, how would I say it, of an opportunity to get rich quick on it. But maybe if you're willing to mine it in the beginning and hold on to it for a couple of years, then it could be something that could make you a lot of money. So I think there's a good chance that I'll actually try doing some mining with Grin. So once they get closer to launch, I'll probably buy a few GPUs and give it a whirl. In general, mining has not been very kind to me, if I'm being honest. Some of that's my fault.
If you want to go in on it again, I think I would actually be interested in that.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, when I mention that, people are like, okay, what if I give you some money and maybe you get an extra GPU for me? It's okay, maybe I could do that, but also, how many GPUs do I want in my apartment screaming?
Man, you live in San Diego. The electricity there is expensive. I'll handle the mining. You give me the money.
Yeah, I'm looking for, like I said, I'm running out of things to put money into, but I got burnt on one mining project, but I'm still looking for another one. I think I'm going to keep on putting a little bit here, a little bit there, until eventually one of them works. And honestly, I think at some point I might just have to move out of the United States. I know you, Jackson, you and Tay are both out of the United States a lot, or at least you're going to be. But I've been hearing people talk about Europe, and Berlin sounds like it's a lot of fun. And the cryptocurrency communities in some of these other continents really make it actually sound like it could be a lot of fun. It would be a lot of fun if I could go live somewhere where maybe it's still a big city and maybe the cryptocurrency community is much larger. Because in San Diego, it's not the biggest. Although I will say it is growing. I have noticed new companies are coming in, so hopefully that trend will continue. But I do envy you a little bit, Jackson. You'll be going to Japan, and I have a feeling it'll be very busy in the cryptocurrency community. And I'm definitely going to want to hear all about it.
Yeah, I'd love to. I just want to say one thing about that it might be that the U.S. has had such a great track record of having a good currency. I mean, we like to complain, but other had it way worse, and they can much more easily see the benefits of having a hard currency.
Yeah, I think there's probably some truth to that. I mean, as Japan, they had some issues, right, over the last 25 years or so. I think they had issues.
Yeah, they've had some inflation woes too, but it's pretty similar to the U.S. But they don't have quite as long a track record as we do.
Got it. Yeah, well, we'll be very interested in hearing about it once you get settled in there. Okay, so are there any other stories you wanted to touch on, Jackson? I was going to end with a little bit more news from Edge, but do you have any other stories you wanted to touch on?
No more stories, but I wanted to make a comment about Grim. You were talking about how they're going to have a constant issuance.
Correct.
That actually is one of the few changes that I think I would actually have preferred Bitcoin did. I know it's a huge part of how Bitcoin works, that there's only going to be 21 million coins ever. But if you have a constant issuance, you still end up with a very scarce coin after a while, because once you have 500 million coins, another 50 coins coming into the system is nothing.
Right.
But it doesn't have that drop-off crisis of confidence that Bitcoin has every 4 years, where is it going to die? Is it going to be a death spiral? Is there going to be enough money to pay for the miners next year? And I just think it would have been a little bit easier. But of course, I don't believe that it's worth trying to recreate everything else that Bitcoin did right to fix that one thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of drastic, isn't it? It's like a drastic. Oh my God! We're gonna get half as many coins. People are like, oh well, that's cool because it'll make things more scarce. And okay, yeah, in the long run, that causes the the inflation rate to go down. It can cause the value of the coins you do have to go up. But of course, what you're alluding to is, if you're gonna hypothetically, you could end up with like half the miners. And we just saw today, this last week, what happens when you don't have enough mining power. So, yeah, and the fact that it's like every 4 years too. Don't get me wrong. Like maybe if you did it once every year, not like going in half, but like down 20% or whatever it would be. Maybe on one hand it's like, oh well, maybe that would be better. It's like, no, but then it's just like it just cuts it up into like it's not really that much better. So yeah, I feel like, have you done a 180 on this? Because I feel like in the past you were like, oh, if there's like a constant, what it was? Is a constant inflation percentage that you did not like. Because I think EOS has that, where it's like 5% per year. So that's like a constant percentage.
Yeah. Either one of those is possible. I may have made a 180, but I think I've always had this opinion. But yeah, definitely, you keep inflating at a constant percentage, then that is just not interesting to me at all.
Yeah. Okay, well, I got one last, I'm not going to announce too much detail on it, but it looks like at Edge we are going to be doing another release. We're going to be updating the application and adding some features, I think probably within the next few weeks or so. So this is actually probably going to be the biggest update we've done so far, and we're testing things out right now. There's going to be at least a few currencies that are going to be added, and I'm not going to go into which ones they are, but I will simply say that at least a couple of them have pretty strong followings. So I'm actually pretty excited about it. I know at Edge we are very excited about it. We're trying to test things as much as we can right now to make sure that things work, so that by the time that they're in your hands, that we are confident that they will work the way that they're supposed to. So be on the lookout for that within the next, I'd say, 3 weeks or so. So if you haven't downloaded Edge Wallet on iOS or Android, go ahead to the App Store, give it a whirl, let us know what you like, what you don't like, and you will get a little bit of a surprise, hopefully within the next few weeks. All right, is there anything else for you, Jackson?
No, sir. It's great to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. The audience out there is your captain, your crew, wishing you fair winds and following seas. Set sail. Give me a sec.